All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Disability Support Services is going to be talking to us and giving us some information about how to access academic accommodations for your students. So as your student transitions to campus, it's a great opportunity to learn more about support services that are available for your student. And we have nobody but the best to tell us about all this. Valerie DeWest, Associate Director of Disability Support Services, is here with us. So I'm going to give people just one more minute to jump on. I see a few people on Facebook, and we're also here on Zoom. So if you are joining us right now, remember you can post your questions in the Q&A section as we go along, and then we will get to those questions at the end. You can also place them on the comment section on Facebook. So if you see me looking sideways, it's because I'm also monitoring Facebook in case there's any questions. Again, our webinars are recorded and they will be live. They will stay on Facebook for your viewing and reviewing and just sharing it with other family members or students. And then they will be posted on our website, uab.edu/families, within the next couple of days. And so if you've missed any of our previous webinars, you can go back to our website, uab.edu/families, under the communications tab under 2025 webinars. You can see the webinars that are available that we've already had. It's a great resource for you to see and to have a little refresher about all the information that was given to you during orientation. It was a lot to take in during orientation, and so as you have time and as questions come along, feel free to go back and look at the webinars and check the resources and the contact information. But if there's ever a moment that you don't know who to call or who to reach out to, just reach out to families at uab.edu. We'll be glad to take your email and connect you with the right person and get you to the resources you need. So don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. So I'm going to let Valerie just take over and present for us today. And thank you, Valerie.
Thank you, Carmen. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Valerie DuBose, and I am the Associate Director of Disability Support Services here at UAB. And just want to thank you all for joining today and wanting to learn more about disability support services. And so I want to get started by talking a little bit about the purpose of our office. So our goal or our mission is to provide an accessible university experience for all students, visitors. So we just want to make sure that we are providing an accessible experience for our students. So we do serve as the university appointed office, charged with providing institution-wide advisement, consultation, and training. So we kind of have a two-prong responsibility. We work with students specifically on getting access to accommodations, which we'll talk about a good deal today in this webinar, and on how students can get access to those accommodations. But we also serve as a resource to our faculty and staff and campus partners here on campus to ensure that everybody is aware of their responsibilities for working with our students with disabilities, and also just making sure that they're mindful of providing programming that is going to be accessible. So we're looking at ensuring that our courses are accessible, any events, any kind of activity that is being provided on campus is accessible for all students that are attending here at UAB. When we talk about the students that we serve, a lot of times individuals are a little surprised to hear just the sheer how widespread the students that we're serving are. So as far as the types of disabilities or diagnoses that we serve, a lot of times when individuals hear about disability support services, they're thinking that we are, primarily working with individuals with more physical disabilities. But really, the majority of our students that we're serving are students with invisible disabilities. We have at last count, over 800 students that are not 800, 1,800 students that are registered with the office. And that is spanning from our students who are first-time freshmen, first-time students, all the way up through students who are in graduate or professional programs. So we are working with the a wide range of students in different areas across campus. We are also serving over 90 different diagnoses. So as I stated before, we're serving a lot of different diagnoses. So the majority of students that are registered with our office are students with ADHD or learning disabilities, but we are seeing a big increase in students who have psychiatric or psychological disabilities, so anxiety, depression. Another disability category that we're seeing a rise in is students with medical conditions. So anything from migraines or diabetes, we are seeing a pretty big increase in students that may qualify for services for those conditions as well. And as I said before, that we are working with students all the way through graduate programs. So about 30% of the students that are registered with our office are students who are in those graduate and professional programs. So accommodations can follow students from their first year all the way through their graduate studies. In order for students to officially or formally receive accommodations related to disability here at UAB, they do need to self-identify, and students can do that by completing the DSS application, which is available on our website. And so students can access that application by going to our website, logging into a DSS student portal, and through that portal, they can complete a brief application just to give us a little bit of background information about their diagnosis and just some accommodation requests that they may have. And then we ask for students to submit documentation of their disability, and those documentation guidelines are also available on our website. So we do get a lot of questions from students and families about what type of documentation is required. And so we do want to make sure that everybody's aware that those guidelines are on our website. They do outline specific information that we are looking for, but we don't want students to get too overwhelmed with the guidelines. We will work with students on trying to obtain additional documentation if something's missing, but we don't want that to discourage anybody from getting services through the office. But documentation does need to be current. It does need to be provided from a qualified evaluator. And then we are looking for some assessment information and a clear statement of the diagnosis. And it is really helpful for us to kind of have that information from the evaluator or the medical provider on any type of limitations. And that will help us in the planning for what type of accommodations a student may need. We also have students complete what we call an accommodation planning meeting, and that is an opportunity for the student to meet with us, with one of our case managers, so that we can hear specifically from the student, because that's our primary source of information too on how a student's disability or diagnosis may impact them. So student self-report is really, really important as we look at developing a individualized plan for accommodations. And then after that planning meeting, so once we've had the application, we've received documentation, had a planning meeting, students then will complete what we call is the DSS orientation. And in that orientation, a student will be provided all the materials and the information on how to implement their accommodations and how those accommodations will be coordinated through their classes. This process can take anywhere from a couple days to a couple weeks. It really all depends on, a lot of it depends on the responsiveness of the student, when they can meet with us, what documentation, if we're needing to kind of get additional information. So we really want to encourage students who might be requesting accommodations to get connected with our office early. So if they haven't done so yet, to go ahead and start that application process, start that process of submitting documentation, so that we have a little bit of cushion to be able to make sure that everything is going to be a set for the beginning of classes. One of the really important notes is that accommodations are not retroactive. So that means that if a student tries to get set up in the middle of a semester and maybe didn't do so well on some exams or didn't do so well in a class, and then they get set up with our office in the middle of the semester, we cannot go backwards and let students retake exams or retake classes if those accommodations were not set. So that's why it's really, really important for students to connect with the office early. That's one of the things that we like to drill into these presentations is just to get connected with us early, because those accommodations are not going to be retroactive. We also want to just mention that IEPs and 504 plans may not be sufficient as standalone documentation. And the key word is may. There are some IEPs and 504 plans that come from the high schools that are very, very thorough. They're current. They have all the information that we need. It may be that those are sufficient and we can take that as standalone, but there may be times when we might need just a little bit of additional information. And so students can work with their case managers to determine if there is any additional information that is needed. The other thing I want to mention too before I go on to the next slide too is we do have students who might want to meet with us before submitting an application or providing documentation. And we are happy to do informational meetings with the student, with the families, if you want to learn a little bit more about the office prior to submitting any of their information. So we're happy to do any of those informational meetings as well. Some examples of just our typical accommodations. These are just examples of our common accommodations. So testing accommodations, we do have students who might qualify for things like extended time on exams or being able to take their tests in a reduced distraction testing environment. Note-taking support may be an accommodation. It's one of our common accommodations. And this can be anything from being able to audio record lectures, be able to use apps to help with note-taking support, alternative formats. So if students need any kind of books or materials in either a paper version or a digital version, depending on their disability, we may work with faculty on obtaining alternative formats of exams or handouts. Attendance flexibility. This is usually for our students who might have conditions where they might have flare-ups, where they might not be anticipating being able to, they're going to be missing class due to a flare, or so things like that. We may have some ability to work with the student and the faculty to have some flexibility with attendance policies. Assistive technology, so things like being able to use different kind of apps or have access to their computer. We may be able to work with students on getting access to those types of services. And then sign language interpreters. Captioning is another accommodation that we will coordinate. This list is definitely not a comprehensive, all exhaustive list. We do provide a lot of different unique accommodations as well. So the other thing that I like to make sure that we point out too is that each student's accommodation plan is very individualized to their unique needs. So there's not just if you have this diagnosis, this what the accommodations are for that. It is going to be really individualized, which we will work on creating those individualized plans in those accommodation planning meetings with the student. So coordinating accommodations. Once a student has gotten registered with the office, we have a plan for their accommodations. The next step is to go ahead and get those coordinated in their classes with their faculty. So just a brief overview of how it is coordinated. Students use the DSS student portal to basically facilitate and make those accommodation requests in their classes. So a student at the beginning of the semester or a little bit right prior to the semester starting can log into the DSS student portal and send their electronic accommodation letter to their student. That accommodation letter simply verifies that the student's registered with the office and then will provide a list of what accommodations the student is eligible for. It's not going to have any kind of disability or identifying information about a student's condition. It will just provide the faculty member with a list of what the approved accommodations are. Once a student submitted that letter through the student portal, we encourage students to do a follow-up with that instructor, whether it be discussing through email or scheduling an appointment to talk about what accommodations they are requesting in the class. And it gives an opportunity to talk with the faculty member or the instructor on how those accommodations will be implemented in the class. So some of these accommodations may take a little bit of coordinating and some communication between the student and the faculty member about how those accommodations will be provided. It's so important for students to stay in communication and to report if they ever run into any issues with receiving an accommodation, if there's questions about an accommodation, if a faculty member forgets to provide an accommodation, to report those problems to Disability Support Services as soon as it's happening. And I really can't stress this enough. I think and I think too with students, if you all as families can help encourage your students to really communicate and use our office to reach out to if there is ever an issue, because it's so much easier for us to identify an issue or identify a resolution or fix a problem in the moment or when it's happening rather than kind of going back. So sometimes something will pop up and then we won't hear about it until the end of the semester, and it's really, really difficult to fix an issue going back in time. So we really want to encourage students to stay in communication with Disability Support Services and with their faculty if they run into any questions or concerns about their accommodations. And that kind of leads me into this next slide about self-advocacy. So, in the higher ed setting and in college, there is a lot of student responsibility. So, the students are responsible for self-identifying and disclosing disability to our office, not to faculty or anything like that. This information is all confidential, but it is a student's responsibility if they are requesting any kind of accommodations here at UAB to go ahead and get connected with the office. We also want students to be able to talk about their disability. So when they come into our office, being able to talk about how it may impact them in the classroom, what accommodations may have been helpful in the past, what accommodations is a student requesting. So it's really, really helpful with having the students involved, and we really do want a lot of student involvement as we're looking at what accommodations a student would like to request and what a student might be eligible for. And then going back to kind of reiterating just the big communication piece and making sure students know that it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to let us know if there's something that's not working out. And of course, in the college setting, students are going to be completely responsible for their classes. So that communication piece is going to be really, really important. I briefly touched on the confidentiality, but do want to point out that all disability-related information, including documentation, correspondence back and forth, is confidential, and that the student's diagnosis is going to be confidential, a student's status is going to be confidential, so there is going to be no indication that a student was registered with the office on a transcript, or it won't be on a diploma. All of that information is confidential and housed in our office. In terms of parent or family involvement, it is going to be a little more limited compared to the high school setting. So we do want to make sure that that we do make our families and our students aware that involvement is going to be a little more limited. We do welcome family members and parents to participate in those initial meetings with the student, because we really can get a lot of valuable information from a family member. But we do want everybody to know that we are going to be directing questions, scheduling appointments, and things like that with the student as well. But we do want to make sure that we don't completely shut parents or families out, but we are, under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, we are limited in some of the information that we can share at this point. As far as temporary impairments, this is something too that we like to make sure that we include in our presentations and when we're talking to families. While a temporary impairment may not qualify as a disability under the ADA, we still also, our office is charged with working with students who might have a temporary need. So if there's a broken extremity, hand injury, a leg injury, our office can assist with students with coordinating some temporary accommodations. So we do work with more short-term disabilities or impairments as well. And students who might need assistance in that area do also follow the registration process to request any kind of temporary accommodations. So they can do that by following the same process with doing an application and providing any kind of documentation. And typically our temporary impairments are students who might be using some kind of accommodation need, maybe for a semester or less. It might be just for a couple weeks, but it's generally 1 semester or less for those temporary impairments. We also want to, not only is our office working day to day on providing accommodations, we also try to do a lot of promoting awareness. We host a lot of events. So different ways that students can get involved is attend some of our events that we host. We have an annual wheelchair flag football game that's really well attended, and it's one of our signature events. We host it usually around homecoming, so sometime in October, where we partner with Lakeshore Foundation. They actually have a flag football team. They bring individuals to come play our students. So they bring wheelchairs that our students can just use and play an actual flag football team. So it's a really fun event. It's really well attended. We just did our 10th year last year, so this will be our 11th year this October. So we want to go ahead and start spreading the word so that we have really good attendance. We also host throughout the year different workshops. So we've done American Sign Language workshops in the past and other different kind of activities to help promote awareness. And so we want to encourage students to get involved. We also there's a couple of student organizations on campus for students to get involved. The Delta Alpha Pi is a disability honor society that some of our students are connected with. And then there are a couple different advocacy organizations, student organizations on campus as well. And then lastly, I do want to kind of point out, it's just kind of a little shameless plug, but we do have student employment opportunities in disability support services as well. So from time to time, we have student workers who are employed through the office. So that's just another way for students to get connected and be involved with disability support services. Lastly, just want to share our contact. We are located in the Hill Student Center. We're on the 4th floor in room 409. Our website is uab.edu/DSS. We are very active on social media, so we post a lot about our events and reminders and things like that on our Instagram and Facebook account. So would welcome everybody to join those as well, to stay in the know about all things DSS and about some of the different programming opportunities that we have as well. But just want to thank you all for joining today. And if there are any questions, I would be glad to answer.
Thank you, Valerie. So this has been very helpful. And I think at this time, I just want to invite families, if you have any questions, you can place them in the Q&A section or in the comment section on Facebook, and we will be glad to get to those questions. Again, while you submit your questions, Remember, if you don't have any questions right now, you can always send them over later. You can send them to dss@uab.edu or to us at families@uab.edu. And also remember, if you've missed any of the previous webinars, you can view them on our website, uab.edu/families, and go back and view them at your convenience. I'm monitoring this, our website and our Facebook page. I am not seeing any questions right now. So Valerie, before we head off, are there any last minute tips or suggestions, strategies that you would provide families so they can support their students as they start their journey at UAB?
Yes, and thank you. And I know a lot of times too, we don't get a ton of questions in these type of settings because we do want to respect confidentiality. So as Carmen said, please feel free if you have any specific questions about your student, please do not hesitate to reach out, email us, call us. We're glad to answer any questions that you may have. I guess just some tips as far as getting registered or getting connected with disability support services. Like I said, we really want to encourage students who may qualify for services to, if they haven't already, to go ahead and get connected with us. Sometimes students in different settings want to try out and see how things go, and we really just want to discourage students from that. Go ahead and get connected with the office and get an accommodation plan, and it might be that things are going so great you don't need to use accommodations, and that's the student's choice too. So, but we do want to encourage students to get connected with us early. And then I think the biggest one is that communication piece that I talked about earlier. Just want to encourage that we are here to help, and we want to hear if there's anything that's not working well, or if students have any additional needs or any kind of concerns. We are here to help. So please encourage students to reach out to us if there's anything that DSS can help with, because that communication is so big.
Yes, that is so true. So again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to direct them to dss@uab.edu or to us at families@uab.edu. And I'm also going to do a little shameless plug. Be on the lookout. We're about to launch Family Weekend registration. So we hope to see everybody back on campus and visit and meet Valerie in person during the Blazer Mixer. So thank you everybody for joining us today. And our next webinar will be happening in about 2 weeks with the counseling department. So just stay tuned. We will send more information out as time goes on, and we hope that you are enjoying the last couple of weeks of summer. And if there's anything you need, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. And thank you, Valerie, for being with us today, and have a great rest of your afternoon, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.